Hello family, welcome back to my channel. This is my first video after a 2-year hiatus, and this is the reason why. What I am getting ready to share is the most vulnerable and the most emotional I've ever been on social media. I was hesitant to speak on this matter, but now I'm ready to share my story. My mother has dementia. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying not to cry at this channel. Okay. Some people's parents are dealing with strokes. Some people have heart attacks. Some people are battling cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer. Some people's parents are immobile and wheelchair bound. Some people's parents are battling addiction, chronic pain. My mother has dementia. At first, I wanted to keep it private and keep it to myself out of protection of my mom. I didn't want people to view my mother as crazy old lady or something like that. And I didn't want people to pity her. And just, the culture of what goes on in this house stays in this house, and you don't talk about family business. I considered that. And, I also was a little embarrassed, I was just concerned about the stigma that would come with that. I went back and forth in my mind about it. I asked friends and family, what do they think? I asked people around. And what I realized is that almost every time I shared this experience with someone, they had a story to tell me too about how dementia had impacted their family. They would say, my mom moved our grandmother in and I'm helping out with my uncle, or I remember my auntie, she's starting to get forgetful. And I'm like, wow, I really didn't realize how many families were impacted by dementia. And it's like, I feel like we're all suffering in silence. And I want to bring awareness to this disease. I want to possibly build a community, build a rapport, some dialogue, share information, share tips, recommendations, resources, because it is a lot. This diagnosis has completely changed my life and how I live. Nothing is the same. All right, so I'll start from the top. What is dementia? Dementia is an umbrella diagnosis that represents cognitive decline and loss of memory, and it severely impacts one's activities of daily living. It includes the cognitive decline, loss of memory, changes in mood and behavior, changes in communication and comprehension. Now, dementia is the tree. Underneath the tree are branches of dementia, which includes Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Lewy body. So dementia does not look the same in everyone. Dementia is also progressive. My mother has early onset dementia, which means she is still pseudo-independent. She can walk, talk, communicate, use the bathroom on her own, eat by herself. I could leave her alone for hours at a time. But this is progressive. Severe dementia can advance to her not being able to control her bowels, her not recognizing me or remembering things, her forgetting, everyday stuff. Mood, some people become very aggressive and mean. Some people regress to like a childlike state. I don't know where this is going for my mother, but she's in the early onset and I still have her. And she can still do a lot for herself. So I'm grateful for that. And I am going to take advantage of the time we have together. There is no cure for dementia. There are drugs that treat the behavioral changes, slow the progression, but not cure it. There are supplements that are recommended. There are services like acupuncture that is recommended, but no cure. It's, it advances until their death. So that's the final stage. I'm trying not to cry. I don't want to cry, but this is emotional. Contributing factors that can lead to dementia include alcoholism, dietary intake like sugary drinks, traumatic brain injuries, poor diet, malnutrition can lead to dementia, as well as genetics. My mother is one of 6 siblings, and 3 of them are battling this disease. So clearly there is a genetic predisposition. That makes it scary for me. There is a gene for dementia. I'll put it here because I can't remember what it's for, but I did some genetic testing and I test negative for it, but I still am at a slightly higher risk for it because of my mother has it. So how we found out that my mother has dementia. During COVID 2020 is when we discovered this. COVID changed the world and changed my life forever. I've never come back from the pandemic. It was June of 2020. My mother has an iPhone and she couldn't remember the code to unlock her phone. So after so many attempts, she had been locked out of her phone. So she went to the mall to try to go to the phone store and try to get, Apple to unlock it. On her way back, she couldn't remember how to get home. So she went to her best friend's house. That was our first inclination that something's going on. Now, at first, I didn't just, think she had dementia. I was like, maybe she has a UTI or something, because those things can cause confusion in elderly people. At that time, my mother was 66. She's now 70. So I just thought, that's probably not it. I'm not going to put that on her and say, I wasn't even thinking that she had dementia. I was like, that's very weird. That's very odd. I was like, maybe she's dehydrated, maybe something else. Of course, it was scary for the family. It was scary for me. And during this time, I'm working in COVID as a nurse. So she had retired a few years earlier just to be on lockdown for 3 years, where every day was the same. Now, after that incident, she went back home. She lives alone. Let me include that. I am my mother's only child. My mother is not married, so she lives alone. And I was very cautious about, people not going around her, because I didn't want her to get COVID and get sick and get sent to the hospital and have to be in a hospital by herself, because I wouldn't be able to be with her. I didn't immediately fly back home because, again, I'm working in COVID. I didn't want to possibly contaminate my mother. And I remember I wasn't supposed to fly into the tri-state area. And we are from Connecticut. So it was just a lot going on. I was taking COVID contracts as a travel nurse, and I felt stuck. I felt helpless. And when I did get there, I went to the University of Connecticut's hospital, UConn Hospital. I didn't go there immediately, like I said, but when I did, I made sure I brought her to a specialist, a highly ranked specialist, great reviews, to figure out what is going on. Because she continued to say she was scared, she don't know what's going on. And I was like, are you anxious? Are you, ruling out all of the things, even had her get an MRI. Because I wanted to understand, like, are you sure? This is my mama. I'm an advocate for my mom. After testing and, explaining how, she has another sibling with dementia and, all of that, it was determined that she was in early onset dementia. And it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking for everybody. It was heartbreaking for my mom. She was, very emotional about, like, I heard her say, cry out, say, why me? She knew her sibling had it, and she's, that sibling is declining. And so she's very fearful that this will be her soon. My mom was able to live alone after that for another year or two, and then she went to live with one of her siblings. Now, the pandemic went for 3 years, so I'm still here, I'm still working, I'm still trying to do everything I can, mobilize my family, my friends, the best way I could, do what I can from where I am. And eventually, it became too much for her siblings. And understandably, they are all of age, they're all older. They're all having their own healthcare issues. They have kids and grandkids and some great grandkids. So they all have their things. So this understandably could have been too much for my mom. It was advised to me to move back home to Connecticut. I was totally against it. I do not even like to visit back home. So I certainly didn't want to move back home. And I didn't want to give up my entire life. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to give up my peace. Like, I just don't like being there. I couldn't do that. I couldn't go back. I just couldn't. It was advised to me to put my mother in a facility. And I didn't want to do that either, because my mom is still very early in this disease. She is pseudo-independent and can do a lot for herself. And I knew if she goes into a facility, she would rapidly decline. That's just what happens. I'm a nurse, I know. Because she is partially independent, I know she would get a lot less attention from staff. She is what we consider a walkie-talkie, meaning she could walk good, she's safe walking, she could talk, she could communicate, And I just felt guilty. Like, I can't be a nurse taking care of everybody else but my mom. So I put my big girl panties on and said no to both suggestions and decided to go up there and get my mama. During my contract, I had submitted for a week off. And during that week, I packed up all her stuff, sold stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and cleaned out her home, shipped what I could, and I moved her down here to Houston with me 4 suitcases. And she's been with me ever since. So she's been with me almost 2 years. Almost 2 years she's been living with me. It is life-changing. I don't feel supported by a part of my family, and it's very unfortunate. That is also why I didn't want to move back home, because I just know my family. I know my family. I didn't feel like I would necessarily have a whole lot more support, and I just knew it would be conditional support, right? As long as I'm doing it the way they want. And I just don't want to be there. I don't like it there. I just don't like it. It's not good for my mental health. And I have to still be fair to myself. Like, I'm in therapy, and I spoke to my therapist about this, and we have agreed that I cannot sacrifice my entire life for my mom. This is my mother and not my child. I am going to care for my mother to the best of my ability, as long as I can, as long as I can afford it, as long as it's in my capacity to do so mentally and emotionally. And if and when I cannot do it anymore, I will take that next step. And I'm working on, from now, releasing guilt about that, because I am one person. I'm just one person. I don't have any siblings to help me with this. I tell people all the time, don't leave their kid to be your only child. And this is a big reason why. Like, I would love to call my sister or brother and be like, hey, can you take mom to see the specialist this week? Hey, can you go half with me on her caregiver bill this week? Oh, hey, can she stay with you now so I can have some time off and get some rest to myself? It's just me. I even went through a bout of depression. I absolutely have. Just changing my world, because I never planned for this. We do expect our parents to grow old and to eventually die, but we never calculate what it will look like for our parents to be here living with a disability. how that will affect our lives, right? Like my work life. I work 12-hour shifts. I don't have any kids. I'm not married yet. I don't have someone here who could be like, okay, after school, stay home with grandma. I don't, how is this going to affect my work, my business? I close my businesses. I just don't have the mental space to run an online store. I don't. I don't have the mental capacity for a lot of things. Like my social media presence has declined since then. I just don't have the bandwidth. I consider how this was going to affect my social life, going out, hanging with my friends, dating, sex, getting married. Will someone not want to marry me because I have to take my mom with me? Will they see that as baggage? How will I travel? I love to travel. How can I afford all her care needs? I went down a rabbit hole of just feeling terrible. Like, why me? Why does this have to be me? Why didn't she do this? Why didn't we, just all the stages of grief. I've went through that. I love my mother dearly. It's so funny how something like this could trigger so many memories, good memories and bad memories. And it does change the relationship. It requires a lot of me. And, I try to be mindful that this is not my mother. This is the disease. But I sacrificed a lot to have her here in my home. And I'm mindful that I don't become resentful because I have my days. I'm a human person. I do work 12-hour shifts as a nurse, and I pay for a caregiver to be here with her on the days that I work. I don't want her to be alone. I feel like being alone contributes to the progression of this disease. She was on lockdown for 3 years, every day the same after, recently coming to retirement. She was working all her life, got retired, pandemic happened, and she's on lockdown for 3 years where every day is the same. It's like Groundhog Day. So I didn't want her to be by herself. But again, my family isn't here. I needed her to have social interactions and activities, and that's very important for people who have this diagnosis. So I'm paying for a caregiver to come in and be with her. I pay $25 an hour out of my pocket and, from her income as well, but mostly out of my pocket. It's wildly expensive. I can't afford for someone to be here that's full 12-hour shifts, and gratefully, she is still in the early stages, so she could be by herself for a few hours, and she's okay in the morning, but she does sundown, which means when the sun goes down in the evening hours, she gets more confused. She gets more restless. She usually wants to do something, or that's where I really see the dementia. So that's the time I have her caregiver here. Now, the expenses of taking care of her alone could break me. Like, that is only one part of being the caregiver here. I spend about an additional $2,000 a month caring for my mother. Lord, imagine an expense that enters your life that costs you $2,000 a month. My mother does have a retirement income and a pension, but it's not a lot. It is not a lot at all. It really gave me perspective on what the baby boomers might be going through in this climate of inflation. I don't even know how I came up with an extra $24,000 a year to cover this cost. Well, like, wildly expensive. It could bankrupt someone. So, but before I get there, I'm not going to let myself get there, basically. But it's really expensive. And I've spent a lot of my savings. I was in a position getting ready to purchase a property when this happened with my mom. And I didn't, because I just didn't know what my finances were going to look like caring for my mom. And I just don't want to be, living tight or living above my means. And sometimes I'm like, this is not fair. Why do I have to spend all my money like this? This isn't fair to me. And I could get really down in my feelings, but I try to remain grateful. I am grateful that I have always lived significantly under my means. I'm grateful that I have a savings. I'm grateful that I know how to invest. I know how to make money on my own. I have entrepreneurial experience. I'm grateful that I have the career as a registered nurse that pays well. I'm grateful that my career offers overtime. But sometimes I think like, what if I had kids? If I had kids and this happened with my mother, I would absolutely not be able to afford both. So that leads me to, well, what if I do decide to have kids? Even with a high earning husband, I don't think I have the capacity to go through a pregnancy, postpartum, the terrible twos, and still care for my mother with progressing dementia. I don't believe I would have the capacity to do it all. Absolutely not. So in some senses, I'm like, do I have to sacrifice having a family to continue to care for my mother? That's not fair to me, And like, that's a bridge I'll have to deal when I get there. I don't even know the answer to that riddle. But the best case scenario, I'm manifesting it. I'm praying about it, manifesting it, working towards it, is to have enough income to have 24-hour care for my mother and to be able to have a home where she has her own little suite, her own little section wing, and she just gets 24-hour care in my home. That would be the best case scenario. It's not in my budget right now, but things change. I have sought after getting government assistance and we have constantly been declined. My mother isn't a high earner. We don't come from money at all. So what I have discovered, I was trying to get home care services for my mother, right? And, for the government to fund it. Her health insurance won't fund it unless she needs a skilled nurse. That means she needs wound care, diabetes, something that a registered nurse needs to come in and care for her and do something like that. Her health insurance won't pay for someone to come in home unless she needs a skilled nurse. When I applied and, acquired about government assistance, she was declined. If you have assets of over $2,000, you do not qualify. So assets can be a car registered in their name, a house, money in their savings account. $2,000 disqualifies you. So my mother had over $2,000. I'm laughing to not cry. It's a very stressful topic. My mother had over $2,000 in her bank. Let's just say, hypothetically, she had $20,000. I now had to disperse these funds, not all at once. I can't just withdraw $20,000 or transfer $20,000 to my account because they do what is called a 5-year look back and assess your spending habits and will assess where did that $20,000 go? Like your own money. The government is going to want to know what happened to this money that she had $20,000 in her bank account for 10 years. What happened to it? None of their business, but whatever. I was told if that $20,000 is transferred or ends up into my bank account, it still disqualifies her because it's seen as her still having access to the money. I have been doing things like paying for her caregivers through her account, and then I would, save it from my income so that she still has her money. Elder care is expensive, and I just like to have some money on the side just in case something goes down. I have some funds for her. So I had to start paying for things like her home health, paying for co-pays, paying for groceries. We're in the process of reapplying. Cross your fingers. If you work for the Texas Department of Health and Human Services, please contact me. Please email me, leave a message. Let's talk. Maybe you could assess me and get her approved some way, because it seems it's not a easy process at all. I have never lived this close to my means in my entire adulthood. My grocery bill is up, and groceries are super expensive. My electricity bill is up because someone's always home, and I have to pay for her caregiver. So the more overtime I work, the more I got to pay for a caregiver. It's like a catch-22. I wish I could call my brother and be like, hey, it's your turn to pay for the caregiver bill. I wish I could call a family member or have a family member come over or her go to them and watch them while I'm at work. I wish things were different, but this is the hand I was dealt, and I'm just playing the cards that I got. Gratefully, I have some amazing friends. I don't have any family here in Houston, but I have friends that are so amazing that they feel like family. And they have been a big help. There's been a time where a caregiver canceled last minute and my mom was going to be home by herself for 12 hours. And my friend stepped in and came over and sat with her. And that meant a lot to me. My friends offered to give me the day off if I just want to get out the house and run some errands. And they stepped in, they support me. I couldn't thank them enough. I have also joined Facebook groups for people who are caring for people with dementia or Alzheimer's, and it has been very helpful. I highly suggest, if you are in this situation, to search dementia caregivers support groups. And just hearing their stories, hearing their pain, hearing their anger, hearing their cries is just like, okay, I'm not in it alone. And we share tips and resources and suggestions. And even though I am a registered nurse, I have had 20 years of experience with people who have dementia, because I started as a CNA, a nurse's assistant first, in a nursing home. That was my first healthcare job at 18. I know what this disease is and can look like. However, I still need help. It's still not enough. I'm just one person. I still have questions. I still need support. What I've come to realize is that this disease, one of the things that makes it really hard is that although, it primarily affects, the person who has the diagnosis, but it also affects the family. It's like we're slowly watching them regress to a child. That seems to be a commonality. The hurt, the resentment, the pain, the stress, the expense is unanimous and affects everybody. Even seeing how it affects couples. So say you're an older married couple and your wife or your husband gets dementia. I feel like that story is so heartbreaking to hear. Some people even say they want a divorce, because it's a lot. Don't think people, I hope this doesn't sound awful or sound cruel or selfish, but it's a lot, and it weighs on you. Some days I'm in here and I'm like, I don't know how much I can take, how much longer I can endure this. Some days I'm like at head underwater with all the things I need to do to prepare for her and get her ready and make sure she's safe, taking care of myself and doing what I need to do, what that looks like, trying to juggle work-life balance and the expenses of all of this. It's as if we are slowly watching them die, and one day my mother might not remember who I am. So I am happy that I have made memories with her. I've traveled with her. I've celebrated her. She knows I love her. I've shown her that I love her. And we have even gone to counseling therapy before all of this happened, years before all of this happened, to build our relationship, because I was working through my childhood trauma. And of course, everybody got mommy issues. Everybody has mommy issues. No matter how great your mommy is, everybody get it. And we worked through that. So I'm so happy that we did that before she had these diagnoses. And that brings me a lot of peace. But it's like this anticipated grief, because where does this end? With death. I have even started making sure her end of life affairs are in order, making sure I got her life insurance policy. I am her healthcare, medical, and financial power of attorney. I was able to get that down before her mental decline, to a point where she legally can't sign documents, because that happens. If you are going through this, please get all the documentations, get power of attorney of everything, and authorize of everything you can now, because there will become a time where it will be unethical and illegal for them to sign on their own. And what has happened, from what I've seen with other people in the support group, is that getting conservatorship over them will have you in court, and it costs thousands of dollars just to say I'm head of a state, especially if you have siblings that own, you guys are fighting for who wants to be power of attorney and things like that, and who wants to be in control. It seems like that could get really messy and very expensive. So get everything you can, get access to all her accounts, get the password, get all the things you can if you are going through this sooner than later. I know what her life insurance policy is, her burial, all of that. I got all of that together. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a life insurance policy that offers living benefits. And that would be something that could possibly cover the expense of a home care aid or a senior citizens facility, a nursing home. I'm interested in buying another policy because, death is inevitable, but it's wildly expensive because she's 70 and she has this diagnosis. So I'm hoping that I could get some government assistance to pay for her caregiver, and then that will free up a lot of cash in my life. And then I would like to purchase a bigger life insurance policy for her. I battle with feelings of guilt just for wanting to continue to live my life the way I want to live my life. I also have a sense of obligation. Like I feel obligated, like I have to do this. Like I can't, I have to take care of my mom, Hey mom, come here. We're gonna talk to the camera. This is my mother, Lorraine.
Hi. How are you today?
Mom, do you like living here with me?
Yes, I do.
Do you miss living in Connecticut?
Yes, I do.
You do? Would you rather stay here with me or move back to Connecticut?
I'd rather stay with you.
All right. Well, then it is settled. That's my mom. She's super sweet. If you ever met her, my mom is literally the nicest person I've ever met in my life. And that's no joke, just because that's my mom. I've never seen my mother yell, raise her voice, cuss somebody out. I've never seen her in an argument. She's true Christian at heart. Like, turn the other cheek and forgive and love thy neighbor. She lived by that for real. I don't even know how I'm her child, but she's super sweet, and it's so unfortunate this has happened to her. She don't deserve this. Not my mom. She's so kind. So I advocate for her in healthcare situations because I know how the healthcare system can be. I'm always researching, trying to figure out what's the innovative things, what else can we do. This has even made me question if I want to have kids. I think this might be the biggest trial of what it may be like to be a mom, or maybe be a single mom. Let me know. I feel overwhelmed often. I am busy from the moment I put my foot out the bed. I have things to do. I have to organize and plan ahead of time to get things done. Everything is on my budget and my expense. I want a break because I'm tired, but when I'm away, I'm anxious about, is everything going right? Is she safe? Whatever. Let me know. Is that what being a mother sounds like? Put it in the comments. Tell me, does this sound anything like being a mother? Because if so, I don't think I want to do this. I love her, I love her to death. It's a lot. How do I care for myself? I have had to give myself a lot of grace and just say no and just do what feels good and makes the most sense, requires the less effort, because this gets overwhelming and overstimulating. I had to be okay with closing my businesses, okay with not showing up, okay with missing events, and just not having the bandwidth for it all. And I honor that and just accept I just can't do it all anymore. I'm not that person no more. Because of this dynamic, I pray, I meditate, I journal, I do yoga poses and stretch, I exercise to take care of me and to make sure I'm grounded. So when I start the day, I try to take time for me, just to get myself together, and then again at night, just to get myself together. Do my deep breathing throughout the day, call who I can call to vent, and still honor myself. Realizing now that I have a slightly increased risk of developing dementia myself, I have researched how to prevent it, right? And of course, it's what we already know. It's diet. The Mediterranean diet is actually recommended to help prevent dementia. Foods high in nutrition, taking multivitamins and supplements. I have this theory that the reason this is impacting so many people is because our food is lacking nutrients. Elders are working too long and too late into life. And just the American life is just stressful as hell. It's stressful as hell. So by the time you get to retirement, you are burnt out. It's expensive. It's not enough. And our food is trash. I think that's plays a big role in this disease development because it's predominantly here in America and not in other countries, even third world countries, don't experience Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's like we are. I am going to remain active. I've always planned to remain active all throughout my life, eat well, continue to be active in my personal life as well, have good social circles, have good relationships and hobbies and interests. My latest hobby is plants. I got into plants during the pandemic and now I have 37 plants. We'll talk about that in another video, but still try to make memories with her, be active with her, take as many pictures with her while she can. When she's in her clear mind, try to talk to her as much as I can, get any information about the past, storytelling. Like I've done that already a long time ago, but just be grateful for this time I have. My mother is still alive. Some people can't say that. I still have my mother. I'm grateful for that. I'm not going to take it for granted. I have another thing that I think was cool that I got the tip from someone else is to save their voicemails. Those baby boomers leave voicemails. So save voicemails. And luckily I never traded my iPhone. So I have iPhones from back to college with voicemails of her on it, and she's always so kind. Mommy, love you. This is mommy. Like she'll call and say, this is mommy. Like I don't know her voice. And she always ended with mommy, love you. Just cherish what you have, and you never know. It's like for a long time I said I never want to have kids. And it's like God said, ha ha ha, I got a trick for you. Here's your mom. And I'm in the caregiver role and I own it. I'm gonna wear the hat until I can't. So I am going to continue to care for my mother to the best of my abilities. I am going to honor myself in the process and love on her, make as many more memories as I can with her, and make sure she knows she's loved and keep her safe. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I know I said a lot and still I haven't said enough. I'm also anticipating having more dialogue with you guys and us sharing this because I know I'm not the only one. And I know what it feels like to seemingly do this all by yourself. But you're not alone. This is not exclusively happening to you. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, and there will be more updates of my mom, Miss Lorraine. Bye-bye.